Hello, bonjour everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cyril, I have been a stem cell researcher for quite some time, and this is why I can tell you about the science that is behind skincare ingredients. For today's video, I think you have already guessed from the title, I'm going to review this sunscreen from La Roche-Posay. This is the Anthelios, the Ultra Cream, and I have the version that is fragrance free, and you will see that I really like this sunscreen. And for once I am not going to bash La Roche-Posay, because in general when I look at La Roche-Posay products I'm always like a bit, I would say, so they are just, I would say, average, and I do think that for the price point it is far too high for what basically they are. And before I start, I want just to show you like a very quick tips on how I moisturize my hand. So depending on what I do, if I am outside or if I know that I will be exposed to the sun, actually my favorite hand moisturizer is simply a sunscreen, and this is the Claire's The Soft Airy UV Essence. This one is super convenient because it is not tacky, and on the go it also penetrates super fast. And when I am at home, most of the time I don't even have a dedicated hand cream, and I use one of my body moisturizer. So the one that I currently loving to use is this one from the French brand SVR, and this is the balm but in the spray form. And the way I do it is super simple. I just put some on my hand, rub them. I mean, it's not rocket science. Make sure that you always do the tip of your fingers, especially me. I tend to have some flaky skin over here, so you do need to rub them to prevent the formation of those like flaky skin. And then once I'm done, because it is quite, I would say, greasy, and usually I'm always on the go and doing something, I don't like to have the inside part of my hands to be greasy. I use one of those towels, and I'm simply going to rub the inside of my hand, and like this you just remove the oily film. So it's pretty easy, it takes like 2 seconds. And this is also what I used to do when I was still working in my laboratory, because all the day I was constantly washing my hands with detergent that were super harsh, because in a lab you cannot use like super gentle water-based cleanser for the hands, and therefore my hands were like completely stripped. So this is a good trick because you can use something super emollient, and by using like a simple towel or even a piece of tissue, you can remove the oily film from the inside of your hands. Anyway, so the topic of today's video is about this sunscreen from La Roche-Posay, and I have to say that this one has a lot to love about this one. So first of all, when you are choosing any type of sunscreen, the two things that are the most important before even looking at the formula is, of course, the SPF, which is an indication of the level of protection against a sunburn, and also the UVA protection. So this is a European sunscreen, therefore the UVA protection is indexed to the SPF, and the UVA protection should be a minimum of 1/3 of the SPF. So because this one is an SPF of 50+, it equals to SPF 60 or above. So you know with this one, with exactly the Colipa methods for the UVA, but it's roughly the same in terms of results as the PPD value that is used in Japan. And you basically have a minimum of a PPD value of 20. And what is super great about this one, like in most actually La Roche-Posay sunscreen, is that La Roche-Posay disclose the PPD value, and with this one we know that the PPD value is 35. So this is definitely a sunscreen that falls into my category of hardcore sunscreen. So this is definitely a super high protection. This is also how it is described by La Roche-Posay, because the PPD value of 35 is pretty high. Of course, because you have a super high SPF with a super high UVA protection factor, it also means that the concentration of filters is very high in this one, and therefore the greasy feeling and etc. and that are commonly known with those type of sunscreen. So you always need to keep this in a part of your head. You cannot expect to have a texture that is, I would say, as elegant as another sunscreen that will have a lower UVA protection. Anyway, so we are going to dive into the formula, and of course once you know the SPF and if you can, the UVA protection. Let's have a look at the filters. And this is important because with the filtering system, first of all, you can exclude a sunscreen where you might react to one of the filters. For example, if you are sensitive to octocrylene, if you look at the formula, you'd say, okay, this sunscreen is definitely not for me. Or from time to time, it is simply also a question, I would say, of affinity. There are some sunscreens that can trigger acne and breakouts in certain person. I am certainly like this, and not with other person. This is really something that is, I would say, person dependent. And this is also why I like to always detail all those filters and tell you when a formula is really different from another one, because in that case, if you tend to react to sunscreen, this one might be the one. And in this one, especially, the combination of filters is very different from what you commonly find in the European sunscreen or even in the United States market, for example. So the first filters is my beloved Tinosorb S. Tinosorb S is a broad spectrum filters that absorb UVB, UVA type 2, and also the UVA type 1. The UVA type 1 are the one that are the closest to the blue light, and they're also the one that triggers, that we think at least trigger the most aging. Actually, it is quite demonstrated. And one of the pathway is that the UVA type 1 that goes deep down in the dermis provoke a lot of what we call in biology Roche, which is reaction oxidation species. And we think that this is the main pathway how those UVA is going to age you faster and trigger the hyperpigmentation, the sagging skin, more wrinkles, and etc. Of course, by choosing a sunscreen like this, you will definitely slow down this process because of the super high UVA protection factor. So the second filters is octyl salicylate, which is mainly a UVB absorbent. Then we have the Uvinol T150 that is also a UVB absorbent, but an excellent one. One of the reasons is because a very low concentration can help to achieve a super high SPF, and of course in sunscreen, the less UV filter that you're using, and the more, I would say, pleasant the texture is going to be. The next one only exists in L'Oreal sunscreen, which is the Mexorial XL. So this one, I would say, is the equivalent of the Tinosorb S that is available, I would say, for everybody, but the Mexorial XL is only available with L'Oreal brands. And this one absorbs UVB, UVA type 2, and also UVA type 1. And obviously having Tinosorb S, having Tinosorb S plus Tinosorb XL is simply fantastic. In addition, we also have avobenzone. Avobenzone is a filter that mainly absorbs UVA type 1 and also a little bit of UVA type 2. One of the main problems with avobenzone is that it is not photostable, but there's a very nice paper that have shown actually that when you combine Tinosorb S plus avobenzone, avobenzone is stabilized by the Tinosorb S, so this is not an issue in this formula. Also keep in mind that you already have the Mexorial XL that also absorbs in the UVA type 1. And the last one is the Mexorial SX, also known as E-capsule, which is a UVA absorbent, so it absorbs UVA type 2 and also UVA type 2. So here you have a beautiful redundancy in filters in terms of UVB, UVA type 2 and also UVA type 1. And if you just count the numbers of filters that just absorb the UVA, you have 4 filters, which is something that you almost never found when you are looking for a sunscreen. Most of the time you have basically 2 filters that are going to absorb the UVA, especially the UVA type 1, which is absolutely fantastic. So the rest of the formula is, I would say, very simple because it is not a long list of ingredients. So the main humectants over here are glycerin and propanediol. In general, sunscreen are not really rich into humectants because of the really high content of oily ingredients, mainly the UV filters. The main emollient here is D-isopropyl sebacate, which is an emollient that is often found in a sunscreen formulation. The reason is because it is an emollient that is not too oily and that helps to solubilize all those filters. Obviously, if you solubilize those greasy filters with a greasy emollient, you will just end up by having a greasy mess on top of your skin. So this helps to lighten the texture, which is also why you find alcohol in here, which is in the form of ethanol, to help again to solubilize those filters, but also to lighten the texture. I don't know obviously the concentration of ethanol. I have a whole video dedicated about ethanol, and I give you, I would say, some scientific fact, but also my personal opinion about ethanol in general. I am really against ethanol in all the leave-on products, especially like serum, cream, also toners, essence, and etc. No alcohol. In sunscreen, I would say I don't mind them because it is also very important to lighten those texture, because if you like the sunscreen, if you like to reapply them if they are not too greasy, you are going to use them. And obviously choosing by the potential harmful effect of ethanol and the potential harmful effect of UVs, of course UV wins. So this is very important to notice. I have to say that I'm quite sensitive in general to ethanol and had absolutely no reaction with this one. I also talk a little bit more about the rest of the formula on my blog. So if you want to check my blog, this is at cyrillaurent.com, where I give you a little bit more of details about this formula if you want to know about it. So of course, the crucial point in those type of sunscreen is the way of application and also the finish of them, because like I said in the beginning, to achieve this level of protection, you do need a lot on your face, which obviously translate into a greasy mess. This is not the case of this one. So this one is really creamy, but at the same time it spreads pretty easily. The finish of it is dewy, but not overly dewy. This is not like some others that I have at home that are super oily. This is not the case of this one. And definitely when you want to reapply it, if you just take a tissue and you slightly blot your face to just absorb the excess of oiliness and you reapply it, it will definitely work on your skin. And this one, I do think that it is suitable for dry skin, also for sensitive skin, especially if you use the one that is perfume free, which I always recommend, and also for those of you who have normal to slightly combination skin. If you have super oily skin, most likely this one won't work for you. Also, something that I really like about it is that even though the finish is quite dewy, if you put a little bit of powder, especially on the T-zone, the finish is quite good. This is not the perfect makeup base, but it does work pretty nicely, especially when you consider the high amount of filters, because we are talking about super high protections here. And also a main huge advantage of this one is that all the filters has 0 white cast. So that means that even if you have super dark skin tone, this one is suitable for you, which is obviously something that is wonderful. Whatever your skin tone, this one will be suitable. Another main feature that I love about it is that it is perfectly suitable for under your eyes. And also, if you have a beard like I do, it is not going to cling on your hair. And like I said, when you massage it, it also blends very easily on the face. So it is definitely a win-win. Another thing that I love about the package is the dispenser, because usually one pump delivers around 200 milligrams and you need around 120 grams, something like that. So basically with 5 pumps you will have enough to cover your face, which is also a feature that I really like about it. So in terms of notorious allergen, this formula is extremely safe if you choose, of course, the fragrance-free formula. So even though you have super sensitive skin, this one most likely will be suitable for you. Just be aware that if you have a lot of acne, like severe acne with open wounds, also if you had like a really strong dermatologist treatment, such as resurfacing lasers, I'm thinking about strong peeling, or you simply have rosacea skin, this one probably will not be for you, because remember that it does have alcohol. If you are not sure, it is always safer to do a small patch test. Overall, I really love and I did enjoy this formula quite a lot, and it is probably going to be my main new hardcore sunscreen when I will be on vacation and spend all the day outside. So the next one that I'm going to review from La Roche-Posay, and you will have this review next week because I do need to test it a little bit more, is this one from Anthelios. This is the K Plus. I just have the package here because I have left my sunscreen in my apartment. And this one also is very interesting, especially if you look at the combination of filters, but it does have a white cast, and I will tell you more about it. So comment down below and tell me if you have ever tried this baby. I have to say that this is a beautiful discovery. If you like this video, please thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to ring the little bell over here to not miss any of my new videos. You can also follow me on Instagram. I am Cyril Laurent. I have a lot of content over here, and you can also comment on my Instagram page. I also try to answer to all of you. I thank you so much for watching me, and stay tuned for my next video. Bye bye, au revoir. I thought I meant something to you. Maybe I just wasted my time.